Hi, Dr. Aisha here, and I want to share one of my practices with you that I absolutely think has been life altering, and it's the practice of compassion. And we are so just hardwired to have compassion for others. It can be very natural to so many of us to offer compassion and care to a good friend, to a child, to someone that we care about. But it's often really hard to offer the same amount or even the same degree of compassion to ourselves. So I have a story here that I've actually heard, and it was Tara Brock, one of my favorite teachers, who shared this story. So I want to share the way that she explained it. I'll never be able to do justice, but I want to share it from kind of my perspective of offering myself compassion over the years and how this story actually was the beginning of my self compassion practice. So here's the story. It's a story of Ellen. And Ellen is in a grocery store and she's in this grocery store and there's a grandmother who's actually pushing the cart and there's a man observing the grandmother. So the grandmother has this little, 3-year-old in the cart with her. And the 3-year-old is just having the hardest day. She's just crying and she's upset and she's wailing and she's like hanging out of the cart. And so the man just notices, and a lot of people are noticing because this child is very loud and obnoxious and just really crying and just creating all kinds of just, like creating just an experience that is not peaceful for anybody in the grocery store. And he looks over and he hears the grandmother say these words. She says, "Hang in there, Helen. Hang in there, Ellen. I love you and we're going to be home soon. And just hold on, sweet girl. Just hold on, honey. We're going to be home soon. Just hold on, sweetie. I love you." And so, he kind of looks over and he's really impressed that this grandmother is able to just be so kind and compassionate to this child who's struggling. And so, he just happens to look over when he's getting to the checkout line and just by coincidence, there's the grandmother right in front of him at the checkout line and she's putting things on, the belt and she's fixing, all the groceries and stacking them up. And this little girl is now really standing up in the cart and leaning over and kicking and screaming and getting very upset and wailing. And then he hears the grandmother again in this really soft and loving tone, pushing, kind of like bringing the child back down into her car seat and says, he hears her say, um, "Hold on, sweetie. Hold on, Ellen. I know this is hard, but you're doing great. You're doing great, Ellen. You're doing great. You're doing great, sweetie. We're almost home. We're almost there. Just hang in there, Ellen. I love you. I love you, sweetheart. I love you." And so, again, he has this kind of warm feeling of like, what a loving, kind grandma. She pays for the groceries. She, exits the store. He only has one item. He pays for it. And then again, he's kind of like right kind of behind her. She makes it to the car. She gets the car seat out of the cart and puts it into the car. Showed up with a seatbelt on the child, and the child is just not having it, is screaming, is getting even louder, and then he's kind of like right behind the car, and he hears the grandma one more time say the same sweet words in that soft, loving tone. "Hang in there, Ellen. You did great, honey. You did great. I know this was hard, but you did great, and I'm proud of you. I love you, sweet girl. I love you. You did great. Just hang in there, Ellen. We're almost home. We're going to be home before you know it, sweet girl. I love you. Just hang in there." So, she closes the door, turns around to put the cart away, and the man says, I am sorry to like interrupt your process, but I just can't stay quiet. Can I just talk to you? I need to tell you that you are an amazing person and that you're so kind, and Ellen is so lucky to have you in her life. And the lady looks up at him and she says, well, I don't know what you're talking about, because my name is Ellen and this little monster is Jessica. And so what happened the entire time, and if the story, the way he tells it is that the entire time this lady, Ellen, was talking to herself. And what she said was this. She said, in the moment where I knew that my granddaughter was screaming and crying and everybody was watching and listening, and I was embarrassed and shameful, and I felt out of control, and I felt like I had absolutely no control over the situation and people are looking at me, she said, I knew I couldn't calm the child down. I know I couldn't calm Jessica down. But I did know that if I spoke to myself from a place of compassion, I would get through it. And I want you to hear the words she used. You got this. I'm proud of you. Sweetheart, I love you. You're doing great. Right? And then she also said, it wasn't enough for me to say these thoughts in my head because the noise was so much. I had to say the words out loud. I just had to give myself that compassion to get through that moment. And so it really inspired me on my journey of self-compassion to say, what if I spoke to myself in stressful situations and in anxiety-provoking, shame-provoking, fear-provoking environments? What if I started to speak to myself in a kind tone, with positive words, in a loving way, the way that I would speak to a small child? With positivity, with you got this, with encouragement, we're almost there, with love, I love you, sweet girl. um and it just changed my whole understanding of how I could speak to myself. So I wanted to share the story with you because it impacted me so deeply. It made me laugh, and it made me think of the ways that we speak to ourselves in such harsh and negative tones, and the way that we belittle ourselves or shame ourselves without even noticing, and how we can actually change that perspective. And all it takes really is a few kind words, a gentle tone, and self-compassion. So I hope that helped in some way, and it'll impact your life in a positive way as well. Thanks so much for watching, and take good care.